My name is Justin, and I'm with Ascend Finance. Today, we're going to cover Chapter 13 bankruptcy in Arizona. What percentage of Chapter 13 bankruptcy do you think ends successfully? For example, get you actually out of the debt? Only 38.8%. Why? It's often related to cost and many other variables, so here's what we'll cover in this video. First, a quick Chapter 13 bankruptcy introduction. Second, your monthly Chapter 13 plan payment. Third, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy costs in Arizona. Fourth, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy process in Arizona. Fifth, Chapter 13 bankruptcy pros and the cons. Sixth, Chapter 13 bankruptcy alternatives. Now, before I get too further, please understand a Chapter 13 bankruptcy in Arizona is complex. So please feel free to ask a question or comment below, and we'll do our best to get as quickly back to you as possible. Also, please feel free to leave a like at the video if you enjoy it. It's super encouraging for us to read. Now, let's cover a quick introduction. Number one, right? What is a Chapter 13 bankruptcy? Chapter 13 bankruptcy is known as a wage earners plan because it allows individuals with a regular income to pay back some or all of their debts. The Chapter 13 bankruptcy plan is a monthly payment plan for often 3 or 5 years. People like Chapter 13 because it can stop wage garnishment, stop foreclosure, and provide protection from creditors. One of the most important things to understand is the affordability of a Chapter 13 monthly plan payment in Chapter 13 bankruptcy in Arizona. Basically, how much do you have to pay each month and how many years are you going to be in 13? The reason that your Chapter 13 plan payment is so important is that it actually may be more expensive than your current debt obligations. That said, it could also be less expensive, so it really depends. We got this question so often that we actually built a Chapter 13 bankruptcy calculator that uses the free bankruptcy forms. You can estimate your Chapter 13 payment based on your zip code using the Arizona Chapter 13 calculator in the notes below. Now, let's discuss how your Chapter 13 plan payment works in Arizona, the various costs and fees, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy process in Arizona, the pros and cons, and the alternatives. Second, your Chapter 13 plan payment in Arizona. Let's talk about how your Chapter 13 plan payment in Arizona and the various factors that goes into it. First, it's disposable income. This is the most important, or one of the most important. The amount of your income that you have each month after subtracting all the allowable payroll deductions and all the allowable living expenses from your gross monthly income is what calculates your disposable income. So on the government means testing website, you can actually find the local standards for Arizona, for instance, like the housing, utilities, and transportation allowables. Now, assets. In some cases, the value of your assets could increase the amount of your Chapter 13 plan if your assets have large amounts of non-exempt equity. For example, if you own a great deal of equity above the Arizona bankruptcy exemptions, your Chapter 13 plan payment could be much higher. For instance, like if you have a home equity and it's way more than the home exemption, you may pay the difference, or it may just be that your plan payment would be significantly higher based on that. Third, debts. So some debts must be paid in full through the Chapter 13 plan, and there's priority unsecured debts like taxes, alimony, child support, administration costs, etc. While other creditors may only receive partial payments. With these are more so the unsecured debts like medical bills, credit card debt, and personal loans. Chapter 13 plans typically include back mortgage payments and car loan payments. Finally, recent financial transactions. So some recent financial transactions could impact your Chapter 13 plan, and so it's important to consider. Now, with regards to duration is really important to consider when filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. The big question is, are you eligible for a 3-year or a 5-year plan? Your average monthly income compared to the Arizona median income guideline is used to help determine whether you qualify for a 3 or 5-year plan. Below, in the notes, is the median income guidelines for cases filed in Arizona after May 15th, 2021. You can also see here. But please check the government's means testing website for up-to-date data as it changes every 6 months. The Chapter 13 bankruptcy fees in Arizona. Let's touch on that. So the main fees to consider in an Arizona bankruptcy is the Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney fee, trustee fee, filing fees, bankruptcy courses, and the miscellaneous costs. Chapter 13 bankruptcy is extremely expensive, so you can take our Chapter 13 calculator below, as it also accounts for these fees. Let's cover the fees one by one to make it a little simpler. 1. Attorney fees. The Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney fee in Arizona is estimated to be around $4,500. The fee may depend on district, so a Chapter 13 attorney may be different from Tucson to Mesa, depending on the district. Second, is the Chapter 13 trustee fees. Another cost is the Chapter 13 trustee fees. So a Chapter 13 bankruptcy is often 3 or 5 years, as I stated. So there are many administration tasks for the Chapter 13 trustee to do, and so there can be a buildup of costs there. However, here's the breakdown of Arizona Chapter 13 bankruptcy trustee fees, as it looks to be around 6.5%. Just as a reference, this can result in thousands of dollars in trustee fees. And finally, the filing fee. So the bankruptcy filing fee for a Chapter 13 case is $313. This fee is generally paid directly to the bankruptcy court. It's a national fee and not necessarily specific to Arizona. So let's now cover the Chapter 13 bankruptcy process. The process is important to understanding when filing bankruptcy. So here are some questions to consider in the process to file. First, understand the different types of bankruptcies. So most folks will file a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but it's important to know the differences. Chapter 7 is often cheaper and provides faster debt relief, but each has its own pros and cons. Second, understand which debts will be eliminated. Many unsecured debts are eliminated in a Chapter 13, but it's good to understand which ones are and which are not. Third, estimate your Chapter 13 bankruptcy plan payment. It's good to get an idea of what your 13 could look like for you specifically. 4, understand alternatives to filing Chapter 13 bankruptcy. The main alternatives to Chapter 13 bankruptcy are Chapter 7, debt settlement, debt management, and debt payoff planning. 5, determine whether to hire a Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney to file bankruptcy. 6, take a credit counseling course. 7, file bankruptcy petition and other forms. 8, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy trustee is assigned to your bankruptcy filing. 9, attend the Chapter 13 bankruptcy court meetings. 10, take a second mandatory debt education course. 11, continue to make your Chapter 13 monthly plan payments. And 12, you'll receive your bankruptcy discharge. As you can see, there's a whole slew of steps in the process, but some of the processes are just understanding whether you'd like to file bankruptcy or not. The 5th, let's go over the Chapter 13 bankruptcy pros and cons. We'll first cover the pros and cons, First pro is it can prevent foreclosure so that you can keep your home by catching up with the past due mortgage payments over 3 to 5 years. Another pro, it can stop wage garnishments, seizures, levies, or any debt collection lawsuits. Pro, it can stop creditor harassment. Another pro, it can stop wage garnishments I was saying before. You may also get a discharge on a second mortgage through a Chapter 13. Another pro, you may be able to pay less than what you owe to satisfy the secured lien on your vehicle. Another pro, catch up on past due child support and alimony. Another pro could be getting rid of unsecured debts for pennies on the dollar. You may be able to resolve tax debts and IRS problems. And finally, another pro would be that you can protect property from being sold to pay the debts. Now, let's cover the downsides. One con is the cost of the Chapter 13 bankruptcy can sometimes be expensive. And it's often 3 or 5 years. It can have a negative impact on your credit score, and it can reflect negatively on your credit report as well. 2 other cons are, first, low payment flexibility. It may have a difficulty variability of what your payment would look like. And finally, your monthly plan payment can increase if your income increases. Now we have an idea of the pros and cons. I want to jump into Chapter 13 bankruptcy alternatives. So Now, let's cover the common Chapter 13 bankruptcy alternatives in this video here. So first, let's cover Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So Chapter 7 bankruptcy is often the least expensive option and the fastest form of debt relief. You can get rid of debt relief in as little as 120 days, and there's no Chapter 13 trustee, and the attorney fees are also a lot less expensive because the cases are less complex. Many people file a Chapter 7 when they qualify and are not at risk of losing any belongings in the bankruptcy. Second, let's cover debt settlement. So debt settlement is where a company or you negotiate and settle debt with your creditors. The goal is to reduce the payment burden of all your debt by around 50%, which will help lower your monthly payment, thus providing debt relief. There are definitely pros and cons of debt settlement, so definitely do your research. Third, let's cover debt management. Debt management is often where a nonprofit credit counseling agency negotiates the interest rate on your current debt. They may negotiate a high interest credit card on a 25% interest rate down to 9%. The goal is to reduce your monthly payment. You may also be on a 3 or 5 year payment plan. I hope this video has been helpful in your understanding of filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. You can visit the Chapter 13 bankruptcy calculator below to estimate your planned payment. Did you learn anything, something new from this video? Please click the subscribe button, as we're going to put more and more videos out to hopefully help you make the most informed decision. Now, I'd like to turn it over to you. What are some questions you have about filing Chapter 13 bankruptcy? Please comment below, and I'll do my best to respond as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching.